At 8:55 p.m. Right here with Neil Cavuto, so you'll definitely want to do that. 3 local chapters of one of this nation's largest labor unions have gotten temporary waivers allowing them to be exempt from some Obamacare provisions. The waivers, including one to a chapter in Chicago, let health insurance plans limit how much they will spend on coverage that is, for a given year. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Larry Wingett is a best-selling author in Phoenix. Uri Man is a global market strategist in Florida. And Diane Macedo is the news editor, that is, for Fox News. Diane, let's start with you.
I think it's interesting, the do as I say, not as I do pattern that seems to develop in Washington. It seems similar to when all the organizations advocating for minimum wage, it turns out, weren't actually paying their own employees a minimum wage. And I think when the labor unions have trouble complying with Obamacare, you're in trouble. And they say of 222 waivers that have been issued so far to Obamacare, 45 of those have gone to unions.
Larry, do you agree with this? I mean, the whole idea is that, you know, rules apply for some people and not for others.
Well, look, so the headline is Special Interest Group Gets a Break After Huge Campaign Contribution? Come on. That cannot be news to anybody. It's been going on since the beginning of time. Look, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's the way it is. The good news is now these kind of things get exposed and we all know about them and we get to sit here and talk about them. So hopefully it'll make people a little more aware that people are watching them now so it won't go on in the future so much.
Well, is a little information a good thing, Uri?
Well, I agree with Larry. I can tell you, we've all known that local, regional, and state representatives can be bought, and now it seems obvious that even the president can be bought. What I want to know, Julie, is what can I pay individually to get a waiver out of one of Obama's policies? I mean, what is the price for me individually?
Actually, there is a fee.
Anybody
There's
knows,
a very specific fee, I think, that the law includes.
Yeah.
But it's like $1,000, or I forget, but yeah. But I don't know about the president being bought. I don't know about that. Let's go to the next story. The Wall Street Journal reporting churches may be the next wave in the mortgage crisis. More and more churches are being foreclosed on because they can't pay the mortgage due to shrinking congregations and rising unemployment. Uri.
Well, it's a real tragedy, Jerry, that these churches are losing their buildings, churches and synagogues across the country. Remember, these are so important to the fabric of our country. When people are in desperation, they look to either churches to save them, or they may end up in our penal system in jails. So it's really unfortunate, but it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. When you have inflation, when you have an economic downturn, people just don't have money to support charities and churches. And unfortunately, these churches are hurting. And I don't know what the banks are going to do to them. You know, the banks, what are they going to do? Convert them into mosques and then sell them to Arab investors? I really don't know. I mean, it's unfortunate. And hopefully, our church leaders can find ways to keep the congregations together, because certainly as the economy continues to deteriorate, we are going to see, an increased need for these types of organizations.
Diane, to you, I mean, this is craziness. It's more than just the basics here. There's complicated finance behind this, too, right?
Well, the thing is, this actually happened in my own parish at home, and it's unfortunate, but these churches don't have the same demand that they once did. The real estate market tanked. People moved away. They don't have the same number of parishioners, and they don't obviously have the same number of donations. So while I think it's unfortunate, there was a real estate analyst that said it best, and he said they do obey the laws of God, but they also have to obey the laws of economics, and unfortunately that means to some of them they're going to go into foreclosure.
Larry, can we do a public offering or something, an IPO, take these churches public or something?
That would be nice.
I don't understand how churches can be in trouble. I mean, doesn't Jesus save? They should have some money. You know, they are supposed to serve a higher power, but they're still susceptible to the stupidity of man, which means they're going to borrow and get into debt they can't repay, buy land that they shouldn't have bought, build buildings they shouldn't be building right now. So they've made some mistakes, and they're going to have to pay the consequences, even though they're a church. You know, it's a shame, but still, they made mistakes, and they're going to have to live with them.
All right, personal responsibility. I hear you. The New York Daily News says tax collectors in the Big Apple have set their sights on some of the elite in the city, including actor Alec Baldwin. The TV star owns a 3-bedroom co-op near Central Park, a house in the Hamptons, and a pad in L.A. And despite all the time he spends here, he claims Long Island is actually his primary residence. The tax man doesn't believe him. Larry?
Well, you know, isn't Alec Baldwin the guy who wanted rich people to pay more taxes, and now he's trying to avoid taxes? Come on, Alec, say it isn't so.
Diane.
Really, the fact is that I think everybody is obligated to pay as few taxes as they legally have to pay and ought to look for every legal loophole that they can find. So if you're going to do this, you better document it real well. So hopefully he's got the documentation to prove that he lives somewhere else 183 days a year. Or he's going to
pretty
have to
tricky,
live with those
actually.
consequences.
The rules are pretty tricky. Diane, does your heart go out to Alec?
No. 3 years ago, he was railing against the Bush tax cuts. Just this weekend, then he's going to Bloomberg and saying that they have to in for more tax breaks for the film industry, or they're going to end up in California. And now he's being accused of skirting his own tax issues. You got to pick one. Either you want tax cuts or you don't. But if you want them, you should want them for everybody.
Consistency. All right. Thanks, Larry, Uri, and Diane. Appreciate your time. Can't wait to sell your IR, or I'm sorry, can't wait to